Loading Innovation Markets platform.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are well. Hope everyone's having a good day. Hope everyone's having a good week. And boy, does it feel good to be back on them YouTube videos. I know it's been a while. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. I've been very, very busy. And also, as you guys know, I can't always give away everything. I don't need to repeat myself on that. But regardless, we're here for another crypto outlook, breaking down pretty much what I consider for the members of the major pairs, BTC, XRP, and Ethereum. Also looking at a few other pairs as well. Again, as promised, updating you guys on the XRP journey. As you guys know, whilst I don't show everything, the one thing I've always promised to keep you guys updated on is my XRP journey. And that's the promise I'm always going to stick to. So whilst it does take, some time to get through some videos, we're back in action. There's going to be a lot more videos. Bernie is going to be ramping up some Forex content for you guys as well. And I'm probably going to start branching out into some more educational videos, not just necessarily technical analysis, not just stuff like that. That will be included as always, but I want to branch out the content and expand into more educational matters and make innovation markets a much more grander scale platform for various different things. But more importantly, let's get straight into the market breakdown. Now, first and foremost, what you see here is BTC monthly time frame on the left. We have Ethereum monthly time frame in the middle, and then we have XRP monthly time frame on the right hand side. You will also notice the charts are now in a white color scheme. I'm going to explain that. Now, historically, what I've tended to always go for is the same colored candlesticks. Now, the reason being is to eradicate psychology. If you guys have seen the course lessons in the app or on YouTube, you would know for quite a while now, I always use the same color candlesticks because I don't need to know whether a candle is bullish or bearish. Essentially, I know what to look for without being manipulated by the color of the candlesticks. However, the market situation right now and the dynamics of what is going on is nothing short of absolute insanity. We have no real progression made whatsoever over the past few months. Since most of these coins dipped in May this year, we haven't really seen much movement. Now, we've had a few altcoins go up and down. You've had BTC make a little progression to 24K. You've had Ethereum make some nice movements, 100% gain. Quite nice to see 100% gain there. You've had XRP almost make 100% gain. You've had stuff like QNT, DOGE, Matic, a lot of coins that I covered that I gave to members, and a lot of coins that have also just popped off on the side. I'm going to be breaking down some of those as well in this video, but overall, in a nutshell right now, I would personally say the market is in a phase of complete uncertainty. You've got people too scared to buy in case we go lower, and you've got people too scared to sell in case we go higher. It's a beautiful formula, and hopefully, if you did pay attention to my last video, I made it pretty apparent that I'm buying for a reason. Now, the video that we made, I believe it was around 569,000 XRP we purchased at that point in time. Since that video was made, I actually ended up purchasing just over 800,000 XRP in total, and I've actually got rid of a little bit of that as well, which I'm going to show you guys in a moment. Now, if you did pay attention to that video, whilst I didn't directly say where I think it's going to go, and I'm still not going to do that, I did make it very, very clear I was buying. So hopefully, if you did watch that video, you guys should be in some profit right now. There should be absolutely no reason why you didn't take the XRP trade in particular, because I put 500,000 XRP on the line for that particular bet. So I was hoping that was a way to kind of just show you guys, I think things are going to get pretty promising. And whilst that has pumped up now, and I'll show you the live Kraken in a moment as well, show you the balance, things are looking pretty good. However, I do not think anything has necessarily changed. I think the most important thing to mention for now is looking at the percentage we are down. Now, the problem here is whilst support floors are forming, BTC especially is currently in a range, as you can see. We've got lows over here that were created in June 2022, and we've got a high of this range for around 25K from August 2022. If we quickly just get a rectangle to illustrate this, there has been no significant movement for pretty much 5 months now. If we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th month that's just opened, we've just had a monthly candle closure as well. Absolutely nothing has changed. And I like this because I think it's bringing a serious amount of uncertainty into the market. You've got a shitload of people trapped in from the very top who got too greedy in 2021. At the same time, you've got a lot of people too scared to buy right now. So everyone's in a confused stage, and that's what I love to see, because when there's uncertainty in the market, that's when I put my money on the line. When there's euphoria in the market, over here is an example, this is when I take my money out of the market. And what I have done here with these candled or coloured candlesticks, shall I say, that are now representing green for the bullish candles and grey for the bearish candles, my main focus right now is not worrying about the same coloured candlesticks or regions. I've already bought, I know what I'm expecting next, and I have adequate capital left should we go lower. I'm still prepared for another drive down as well. But what I've done is change my candle colour sticks for this reason. And what I've done is change my candlestick colours for this reason, because whilst the market is now in a stage of uncertainty, range bound over here on BTC, we are range bound over here on Ethereum, and whilst XRP has broken out of a range, theoretically there's little progression or movement. So we can still consider everything in somewhat of a range, and even after they've pumped up higher, they've all pulled back down and they're behaving very strangely. So during this point in time, I personally think most people have not bought yet. And I think anyone that is going to be buying, which I'll get to shortly as well, are probably not going to be buying until it's too late. And there's a very good example of that with QNT and DOGE, which I'll show later as well. But what we want right now is to actually understand the candlestick colors, because I know it's a massive emotional indicator. This market is almost 100% psychological based, far more than any other market. So every single green or red, aka grey candle for me right now is giving me a very clear idea of what's going to happen next. When you know that the majority of people lose and they are basing most of their investment decisions off the color of a candlestick, it's actually more important for me not to even look at traditional technical principles right now, but instead position myself and my members in over the past 5 months, which I've done so, and I've showed you guys, and I'm hoping you followed as well. Now that we are positioned with plenty of capital still left to strike, and I'll show you that in a moment, I want to know what these candlesticks look like in terms of color and size, because if we see a big green candle, I know the likelihood is, as we can see on Ethereum, the market is going to go back down. Same as BTC, the market went back down. Bearish candle, the market slowly creeping higher. Little bit of a dip, the market's gone higher. These are all monthly time frames again. And XRP pumped up higher. Now, what I've seen, as you guys know, I'm very active on Twitter. No one bought here. When I was selling them to at 30 cents, they have started buying here. And alongside the candlestick colors, I use Twitter as a massive market sentiment indicator to help me justify my buys and sells. I follow all the influencers. Well, I don't follow them, but I track what they say. And I also track the Fear and Greed Index. Now, the Fear and Greed Index is a fantastic way to gauge what on earth is going on with the average market participant. And as I always say, I am a retail trader. I will never try and claim to be an institutional trader, but I would argue I do not operate in a similar manner of a retail trader. And instead, I use the same herd of people that I am technically categorized within, that same demographic, to my advantage, because I know everyone within the retail sector is very likely losing right now, especially after the bear market started placing its toll on many people. So if we look at the Fear and Greed Index here, it's a very clear representation from the offset that we have been stuck in somewhat of a fearful territory for a very, very long time. We have just pushed back into a fearful territory, but we've been in extreme fear for a shitload of time now. And it hasn't necessarily changed. You know, the fact we have managed to get a little bit of a climb higher on BTC, F and XRP, but we're still in fearful territory, that is a very big dead giveaway that right now people do not know what to do. You don't know whether to buy or sell right now. And again, please let me know in the comments if you guys have even bought yet. I would argue that most people probably haven't, and they're still waiting on the sidelines. What have we seen? And here's why I bought. Why I showed you why I bought was not just the technicals, but the main key point here, starting off on BTC. What happened when we went up to these prices? What did everyone tell you was going to happen next? We were going to go apparently to 100k BTC. Every single influencer, every single person with some kind of influential voice kept screaming 100k BTC. Now, everyone laughed at me when I took profits out and said 20k is coming because the market pushed up a bit higher. But those were the same people that didn't sell because they were expecting the Goliath 100k target. Now, going off what I just said in terms of an inverse market indicator using the retail and those influencers who are paid, they are basically making a living from your downfall. They are not here to help you. They're not your friends. They couldn't give a shit about you. And all of those verified blue check ticks and all of that stuff, the cum shot faces and the thumbnails, my favorite kind of video. You know, the minute I see those open mouth thumbnails, you guys know it's time to do the exact opposite. Now, what happened to all of the people that promised 100k next up here? What happened then? The market crashed. We collapsed down. What happened here as we crashed down towards a $20,000 BTC, which at present is still holding this nice monthly support level over here, creating a relatively nice foundation, actually, so to speak. Those same people that called and told you 100k next, change the color of this to represent some nice, beautiful fear. They are now telling you, go down to here, 10k next. So let's go to 10k. This is now the new target for all of the influencers. So what happened to 100k next? And why am I doing the opposite of these people? Because the same people that told you 100k next, it never happened. So what happens here? They're now calling for lower. And what I took from that immediately was, as we started coming in to the $20,000 region, the first thing that caught my attention was how quickly these people disregarded those wild upside projections, which we knew were never really going to happen until we pulled back down. So the fact they reacted up here to 100k, but then reacted down here to 10k, that tells me these people are reactive based off the most recent candles in play. Because I find it quite insane that people are actually giving these people views, likes, retweets, you know, all of this stuff, recognition, when they've completely destroyed the majority of people. And I do truly believe they are either paid by some kind of like government agency, or they are purely just so clueless themselves. You know, what you have to realize here is this is sheep leading the sheep. Just because someone has hundreds of thousands of followers, verified tick, doesn't mean they know what they're doing. In fact, they are sheep disguised in wolves' clothing. And if they were calling for 100k and they didn't tell you to take profits, it's come forward that a lot of these people actually did take profits when they told you we're going to 100k next, and they were actually telling you to keep buying the dip. So what we have right now is a very sexy equation of disaster, which is where I tend to strike when fear is at its highest and people are terrified of what's going to happen next. So if we consider what's been happening, everyone was buying up in these regions all the way upon that 20k break, and they've been buying up here as well, buying every dip as it goes down. One argument that was always very, very apparent when we crashed down to this level, that people were telling me why it was not possible to come down to 20k. The argument was always they will never allow anyone to buy that low again. Now that we're at these levels, how many people do you think are buying this low again now the opportunity has presented itself? Very few. And the reason being is that's because they bought the living shit out of all of these high prices, buying every dip as it dropped lower, every dip as it dropped lower, every pump as it creeps higher. So by the time those good, beautiful prices return, most people are so heavily underwater, they are unable to even leverage these favorable prices that are returning. Now, in saying that, I've always said, from even when we broke 20k, I've been waiting for a 10k to even 5k or lower BTC. And I well and truly believe that's going to happen. But what you need to consider here is, before that happens, look at the market sentiment. We've been crashing for quite some time. From 69k down towards the very lows of around $17,500, we essentially hit a minus 75% loss. Now, whilst we are a little bit higher now, around 70%, I believe? Yeah, around 70% at the moment, we're still down that much money. Now, if we go down to, let's just say, $10,000, it works out to around 85%, which is not that far off what you see most bear markets achieve. We've had 82% there down. Then over here, we had around 72%. So there isn't a given structure or a given number. But what I understand here is once this 20k level breaks, I'll change the color of this. Once this 20k level breaks, what we have down below is sheer empty space and a huge amount of support from 10k even down to 3k over here. Now you can argue, you can cry, you can tell me it will never happen, but you also told me that up here. And here we are now. So you have to be willing to accept that these things are very possible. But what this tells me is I leverage the fact that when I make, and because I've got, not that I'm famous, but I've got I'm publicly known to some extent. So when I make a call, the first thing people want to do is prove me wrong and say it will never happen, or make sure my calls are failures, basically. So when we took profits here and the market pushed higher, people leverage that to be like, well, what are you going to say now? You're wrong. But then as we started crashing down, that set me a very, very good example of what people are thinking from a rational perspective in this market. And now that we have come the whole way down, just understand, most people are in a loss, fear is at its highest, and we've gone from huge crashes to suddenly consolidating. So in theory, it is a 50-50 gamble of whether or not it's going to break or hold. But I am favouring a temporary upside drive. The reason being is, and the reason why I showed you I was buying last time, is because most people right now are stuck in a phase of fear. So what would be the best way to destroy people one more time? Remember, this market is not your friend. This market is not controlled by us. It's controlled by very wealthy, very influential, very powerful people that have a lot of money. We are the herd. We are the liquidity. We are the ones that fund their decisions. And I made this clear with the $69,000 push, where you have to understand these larger players, these institutions, the amount of money they are trading would make you feel sick. Now, naturally, in a market like this where it's not as liquid as you would genuinely believe it is to be, in terms of market cap, a lot of it is fabricated. Exchange order book volumes, a lot of it has been proven to be fabricated. Now, let's just say here when we hit $60,000 or 65 and then we crash back down, the first thing that would have been happening here is a huge amount of people would have been jumping in short as it crashed. Alongside this, all of the buyers would have been wiped out in the process. So all of the buyers that got wiped out here would have started jumping in short, thinking we would never go up again. In fact, I myself was a bit skeptical if we would even go higher. But this is where things got beautiful. And I think I may have covered this in the last video as well. But just to give you an understanding, to piece this all together, as this started crashing and everyone went short, the market pushed up again, wiping out all of the shorters, and everyone starts to buy. Now, if you are a large institutional trader, and you have to understand, for price to hit a certain point and then instantly start dying down, there must have been a terrifying number of sell orders placed in this region waiting to be triggered to trigger down price. Now, when you're selling your coins on an exchange at spot, we're not just talking leverage here, but we're talking spot. If you are selling as an institutional whale, let's say thousands of Bitcoin, you need someone or a lot of people, the herd, aka the sheep, to be willing to buy thousands of Bitcoin off you. That's what triggers the sells. For every buyer, there must be a seller. For every seller, there must be a buyer. The only way to truly manipulate people in this market is to do this. Go to the daily time frame as a great example. Now, when that all-time high was broken, it came through in sheer force in a big bullish candle. Now, the reason I put the green candlesticks here is to show you the rationality of the average crypto market participant, which has the memory of a goldfish and never learned their lesson, and unfortunately will probably continue getting wrecked for the rest of their life. So I look at these candlesticks in quite a different way to most people, because I understand, instead of looking at traditional principles, which I do still use, trend lines, dojis, Fibonacci's, all that stuff, I look at what those candles are making other people do to make a necessary decision to do the opposite. Now, what we saw here when we hit the all-time high was the mother of all bullish candles taking out that high and closing above the high. What do you think people were doing in that situation? Buying. Now, how and why did that happen? And why did the candle pump that aggressively? Because to make people buy, insanely, it blows my mind that people actually bought at these prices, but to make someone willing to buy Bitcoin at $68,000, which is fucking insane, you need to pump that bad boy to the moon. Because when that green candle comes in, everyone rushes in to buy. And that is exactly where you gather enough momentum FOMO. Because remember, when there's a euphoria like this as well, buy, 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 shit, sell, 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 sell. And then suddenly, bang, all-time highs are broken, 100K next. It is not a coincidence, a big green candle pumped up here at the exact same time every influencer, etc., was screaming to the moon, because that is how you herd the sheep into the next trap. And I always say this, these people, they're not your friends. The market, as we can see from the Fear and Greed Index, is driven by fear and greed. So therefore, we need to understand who is really in control of this market. There are much larger entities at play here that have money we could only dream of. I have a relatively good amount of money, but I am nothing compared to these people. Someone who has $10 million liquid to trade crypto is still a nobody in this market. It is not enough to do anything. But these people we're talking about, they are driven by greed. These are what we call the elite, the global elite. As with any other entity where we have a centralized source, whether that's the economy, the financial system, it could be anything, any sector, we know it's controlled by large people, and in particular, a very select few of people. Their motive is, of course, greed. They don't need to experience fear because they're in control. They are purely driven by greed. However, as us, the mere minions and the peasants, we're driven by greed and fear. And they know this. And they use that to their advantage to absolutely ruin people's lives. Because for them to become a winner, you need to lose. And that's why instead of trying to go off what these candles show, you have to do the opposite. The goal here is not to defeat the market. The goal is to understand what the majority are doing, what those moving the prices are trying to achieve, and then piggybacking off their moves. We don't want to be the ones that try and, I don't want to try and short BTC at 69K with the intention of defeating the market, because it's not going to end well. You will never ever beat the market. But with that rationale that's now in play, and I think this was a necessary kind of icebreaker to understand my objectives and bias here. Now that the greed has been ticked off the checklist and everyone is underwater, not everyone, but I would say 95% plus have not secured a profit. And again, it's insane to me. If you look at from where I bought to where this went to, we're looking at 1700%. How can someone not make money in a market that achieves 1700% in the space of pretty much 2 years? That still blows my mind to this day. And it should also be a wake-up call to you if you did lose money. How can you not make money in a market that achieves these percentage gains? That's not including the altcoins and stuff like that as well. So now we look at the opposing side, which is the market going down. And what we are seeing is, instead of extreme fear, we're now seeing extreme greed, we're now seeing extreme fear here. And understandably, I myself am looking at this like, well, it's a pretty interesting equation, but if I'm going to invest my money, my hard-earned money, I'm not going to invest it once the move is done. It's always too late, and I will say this in every single video. If you're going to invest your money, you do it when the majority of people are fleeing in panic or getting out. Now, the beauty of this situation here is the people calling for 100K, as we've crashed, they're now calling for 10K. So my thought process is, if 100K didn't come through, and they were openly screaming this with so much confidence, now that they're screaming 10K, is it really going to come through as they expect and give these people what they want? Because what you want and what the market wants and what those controlling the market want are two very different things. And that's very important to understand. When the quicker you realize you are being hunted in this market and your emotions are being kind of the driving force behind the movements of these coins and the altcoins and the shit coins and everything else, you quickly understand that you are being used as a mechanism to fill their greedy, hungry, deep pockets. So my thought process right now, and as we can now see with coins like the QNTs and the DOGE and stuff, my theory is technically correct. We are seeing coins now moving higher. What we need to remember now, and this is why I think it's a trap, and like I covered in the last video, what do you think happens now if everyone's too scared to buy in these areas? Now, personally for me, I'm not touching Bitcoin, I'm not touching Ethereum, because Ethereum and BTC, they are much lower. I mean, they are much higher, and they have a huge room to fall still. Let's go to F. F over here, if we look at the lows in correspondence with where we are as well, just to kind of help you visualize all of this. If Ethereum does break there is no real support for me down to $400. And like I've covered in many videos before, I think this bad boy is going to end up going back down to $200 or so eventually. But it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to happen now. And for me, even though it's dropped nicely, it's not low enough to be buying this, because I'm not paying $1,000 for a coin that I paid $16 for back in 2017. And I refuse to buy this at $1,000, knowing the market's very well capable of going back down to these prices. Now, XRP, on the other hand, why did I buy this? Well, let's get rid of that stupid dot I just drew and go back to this monthly time frame. Now, number one, if you look at simple trend lines, even from here, we kind of just look at what's going on, whether it's from wick to wick here or whatever that may be. Even though I've bought in this range, this, in the worst case scenario, if this crashes down, let's say to 20 cents, or let's say it even goes close to zero, in the worst case scenario it goes against me, I've got enough capital to buy them prices if they do return. But more importantly, if it was to fall down from here, because of where I bought, I don't mind drawdown from here, because this is where I can dollar cost average from, and I'm more than happy to DCA from 30 cents. Granted, I bought this very, very cheap, and I've been timing this very, very well. But when you're buying at these prices, this for me is dollar cost averaging at the correct time. Whereas most people are dollar cost averaging from here and then buying as it goes lower and lower and lower. But the problem is, you're very, very unlikely going to break even anytime soon. And the question then is, what if it doesn't go back up? I'm always very honest when it comes to my investments. And a question I get a lot, I actually had a lot of comments on the last YouTube video, we're sick of you saying you're right, you're wrong, or you called this, you called that. What are your thoughts on the future? Well, here are my thoughts on the future. The people screaming for a settlement, the people screaming about utility, ISO, all of this malarkey, how do you think they're doing right now financially from the crypto market in comparison to the people that are buying and selling and taking profits out of this market? I think personally, we're not going to see the movements we are talking about and expecting. People talking about a $5, $10 XRP. Crypto has become a religious cult, with each coin being an individual cult. And in my opinion, these people and these market pumps we're seeing, they are beautiful opportunities to make as much money as possible and accumulate as much as possible before things get much, much worse. And when I say worse, what I mean is, right now, when you're talking about utility or a good project or this is promising, the truth is the market doesn't give a shit right now. This is not based on utility. So at this point in time, technicals are always going to work no matter what, because technicals are driven by emotions. And if you know how to use technicals, they're going to work in your favor. But at this point in time, you could buy a cum rocket. You could buy a coin called like Girthy Penis 69, and you're probably going to make 100,000%. This market is not driven by logic or utility right now. It's driven by speculation and insanity. And that is a very important thing to understand, because right now, I don't care when the XRP settlement is. I don't care how it happens. I don't care if they lose. I don't care nothing. We shouldn't really be focusing on those unrealistic long-term prices right now, when the market is giving you, just as an example from 2017 there, look at the gain of that. Look at the gain. Let's bring this over to here and look at the same gain. We're looking at around the same percentage as BTC. 16, 17, 100%. That is more than enough right now. But the problem is, because crypto has become a cult, people always say, what's your long-term projections? The problem is people are constantly seeking answers that are not yet available. And why would I be focusing on these prices up here when the market hasn't even returned back to the historical all-time high from 2017? You have to be real with yourselves here. And I think it's very dangerous to be thinking in that manner of, if you go on to Twitter as an example, the haven of the religious cults of riddlers, trust the plan, settlement inevitable, all that bullshit is designed to make you lose. And I can guarantee you, all of those people trying to predict the settlement are not in a very good situation right now. And the problem here is, when you're deluded enough to believe, because of these huge swings we've seen in the market, people are constantly believing, right, we're hearing $5, $10, $100, it's inevitable. I personally believe, and I think I've said this before, I believe we will go one day to $5, $10, maybe $100, but that will probably take a very long time. And I don't think that's going to happen until we see utility being the driving force of this market. Because right now, especially with XRP holders, and the reason I love this coin so much is not just because I believe in the project. You know, at the end of the day, when we talk about utility, Ripple's one of the most longest standing companies in this space. They have pretty much more partnerships than anyone. They've been tested by banks. You know, there's been pilots all over the place. And a little settlement, a debate with the SEC manipulating things, which is clearly rigged. Do you know what I mean? We know what they're trying to do here. Is it going to make a difference? The US is not Ripple's only market. They are global. So I don't care if they lose the case. And you have to be willing to accept that. To be honest, it looks like they're going to win. From what I've seen and from what I've read and what I've researched, it looks pretty nicely in their favor. But the problem is when you're addicted to fantasizing about these crazy prices, you're missing out on all of these gains and all of this money to be made. And because of these huge movements we've seen, when people are calling for a $10 XRP or a $100 XRP, they're expecting it to happen in the same manner as this. And that's the problem. They are all expecting to get rich in arguably the space of a month or two in a single bullish candle. And whilst it has happened in a few places, we need to be a bit more realistic, level-headed, and just think for a second, right, if we've got millions of people holding coins which arguably they need the $10 to $100 because they're not holding enough as it is, and that's not because they probably haven't got enough money, they've probably made loads of money, they just haven't capitalized on it to do what we're doing over here. So you've got all of these people, millions and millions, preying on a settlement to end, preying on this to end, you know, all of this stuff, and they're expecting to become multi-millionaires overnight. And the reason these prices are given out, in my opinion, is not because they're not going to happen. Well, I think they are going to happen. I think they're given out as a trick. It's a way to make you emotionally attached to your investments to believe it's going to solve all your issues. Crypto is not the gateway to solve your problems. It is, if you handle things the way we're doing things, you will make a lot of money. As you've seen, we've made a good amount of money. And this is just only what I show publicly. I don't show my personal pot on the side. But the numbers like $10 and $100, they tap into your emotions. That is what you know, people calculate how much they have. Let's say you have several hundred or several thousand XRP. You're doing mental arithmetic in your head. You're doing all sorts of gymnastics going, right, if it hits $10, I'll have 5 million, I'll have this, I'll have that. But that's what they want you to think. Now, my personal thoughts are, before we even get to them prices, number one, I really recommend reading my article on the Innovation Markets website. It will break down, we've started doing technical articles. It explains my theory of what I think the next bull run will do for XRP. And I really recommend reading it. I'm not sending you anything, just read it on the website. Simple as that. It will break down and explain this much further. And I'll overlay this on the screen right now just so you can see and put the link in the bio as well. But that should help explain my rationale. Now, my thoughts are, we've had some of the craziest gains in the world. The market's been moving pretty crazy. The problem is, it's been driven by absolutely nothing. There still isn't a lot of utility, we're still not regulated, and things will probably get a lot worse before that. So my thoughts are, number one, we're still in the bear market, don't forget that. Some coins are pumping. As an example, QNT. Now you guys will know from the last video, I gave this call to my members at $40 and I told them take profit at $120, $130. Now, as you can imagine, the first thing that people say is, ha 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 ha, Torre, you fucked up. You got them out early, now they're missing out on money. You know, it went from 40 all the way up to here and they missed out on a 468% gain. Did they miss out on anything? Number one, if you were smart enough to follow my guidance, you always leave a runner, as I always do, and I've shown you guys. So what I gave was what I would argue is quite a nice call, to be honest with you, 225% in a bear market. And what's happened is the market's gone higher. Now my thoughts are, number one, anyone that sold here and took my call and made 200% should be over the moon, if anything. You know, I would be screaming. I didn't even take this myself. I don't know why. I probably should have. But now it's gone higher. It's not here where people get excited, but it's here. Now what people need to remember is we are in a bear market still. This doesn't mean we're in a bull market. This, for me, if I go to the monthly time frame, is a simple retracement. And what people tend to forget is markets in a bear market, in the crypto bull markets as an example, if we go back to BTC, a great way to illustrate things is always BTC. Let's go to the weekly time frame. Now, what you will notice about the bull markets is one characteristic. When they happen, they fucking happen. They go for it. They rip, and it happens very quickly. Launch straight to the sky. What do you notice with bear markets? They swing. They swing, they swing, they swing, they swing, they crash, they fly. They swing, they swing, they swing, they crash, they fly. They swing, they swing, they swing, they swing, they swing maybe? They crash, and they fly. Now, in terms of 100k BTC, I'm still conflicted, to be honest with you. I'm still absolutely conflicted if it's even going to happen right now. I've never been a believer in BTC, and I'm still very open to the possibility that for the utility run to actually happen. So again, just going off what I just said, going back to XRP now and flowing through all of this one by one, all of these people trapped, we know what's likely going to happen. Now, all of these people that are screaming diamond hands, hodl, blah, 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 you know, I'm never selling this, that, we're going to go to the moon. What do you think happens if this bear market worsens even further? Now, my theory is for one of the ways a utility run can happen, the market needs a wake-up call. We cannot expect this market to mature when it's driven by immaturity. It's driven by greed, get rich quick, NFTs, all that rubbish. I'm just not a believer in any of this. I'm not a believer in any of it. But what I believe in is crypto. I believe in the future. But what I believe will happen before the future really starts to get implemented is we need to understand people are still riding on hope. They are holding and holding and holding. But there will come a time where, you know when people say, they're trying to buy your bags off you, never sell, never sell, never sell. I personally think this is going to be the worst bear market we've ever seen. And I do believe we're going to go lower than what people really think we're going to go down to. And I don't think that's going to happen until we go higher. And I've said this already. That's why I showed you I bought. In fact, I will show you now. As you can see quite clearly, you've got buys and sells there as well from absolutely everything. I've hidden my orders. I'm not going to show you some other potential sell orders, but it's apparent here. I showed you this in the last video. I think I put in around 200k, 250k in total, hit around 800,000 BTC, XRP, and we've just been accumulating. Now, as I've shown you before, I scale out when it pumps and I buy when it crashes. As another example, talking of the settlement, the SEC crash. Why did I sell here? Technicals. Why did I buy? Technicals. Why did I buy? Fear. Why did I sell? Greed. Why did I buy here? Fear. Because not many people bought here. And that's actually why I've done the video, because I thought it'd be a good way to kind of give you guys a bit of an insight into why I've done so. Now you can see two sells on the chart as well. I'm not a greedy man. First of all, I put 70k here in at 37 cents. I wanted to get it out in a little bit of profit. Nothing major, but I wanted to get that position out because I wasn't happy with it. So I took it out at 38 cents. Then I sold a little bit, 100,000 XRP at 45 cents. And I'm still holding, as you can see here, 523,000 XRP. Now I'm going to go over to the balance. As we can see, fortunately, it's now back up at $510,000. We hit a height of around 516,000, which is fantastic considering I was down to almost 360k when XRP first crashed towards the 30 cents region. So fortunately, because of my buys, I've blurred out all the other ones because I've purchased 2 new altcoins recently as well, which I do think are going to explode soon. In a good bit of profit on them already. I put 10k into each one. One of them's up 600, the other one's up almost 2k. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with those as well, and I'm expecting them to basically mirror what we've seen on QNT and DOGE, and I'm sure a few others will do so as well. You know, in total, since we've crashed down to these lows of $20,000, I've provided members over 1,000% returns in a bear market. And I think what we need to remember here is what's taking place in this situation. So just to show you as well, pound. I've still got over 212,000 pounds. Now this was dollars. However, as you guys know, I love to buy fear. So the pound, we had massive FUD, everyone going crazy. Oh my God, pounds hit record lows, blah, 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 blah. At that very moment, Bernie called me and said, buy pound now. So we put $250,000 into pounds at these lows. And it's actually worked out very nicely because now we're going up quite nicely as well. I've taken a bit of that out, factored that into some other investments as well, but we're in a good profit from that buy already. And I think I got in think it was 1.06, if I'm correct, maybe a bit higher. I don't remember the exact price. Maybe it was 1.06, around there. So it got up quite nicely. I'll have to confirm that for you. But it's looking very good. So I'm holding a lot of pounds still, and I'm ready to strike in the worst case scenario. We do go lower. But at the same time, there's still over 500,000 XRP there, waiting to be sold if we get some fortunate prices. So I'm still holding 250,000 XRP and basically $250,000 worth of pounds, or £250,000. So I'm in a very fortunate position. And at this point in time, despite the market being in such severe uncertainty, I'm so relaxed, because if it goes higher, I'm going to make several 100,000. If it goes down, I have several 100,000 to put in. So whilst everyone's frantically panicking now, I personally think if we're going to go higher at this point in time, people will only buy at that point. But what we need to remember is, even just disregarding this trend line, we need to look at the bigger picture here. Is this really where the bull market is going to start? Is this really the kind of economic climate to see a meteoric bull run? I think we're going to get a nice pump higher. But what you need to remember is, like I just said, the market swings up and down. In a bear market, it breaches to very scary territory, and then it goes in for the next move. Now, what are people doing in that situation? They're buying here, and when this comes down, they're selling. They're buying here, they're selling. That's what justified my buy, and that's what led us to some pretty nice profits so far. And the reason I got out is because, well, why hold on just in case? You know, taking a quick 40, 50k out for the sake of it in profit, let it be. It's money. And I'm not driven by greed. And I try and express this in every video. I don't care about missed out gains. And the QNT example is great, because what do you think people are doing right now? You know, imagine making 200%, but being upset because it went a little bit higher. You know, you should not be greedy. This is a huge return to be making. Even 50% or 100% is far better than you're going to get in any other market, which is falling to absolute shit right now. But QNT is a great example of this, because no one wanted to buy here, but they have no issue buying at $200, which blows my mind. Now, what do you think is likely going to happen with QNT next? Realistically, it's going to pull back down. It may dip up to here again, and I think it probably will push up again into the 200 region, but it's very likely going to pull back down. And this is my theory. For those coins that haven't moved yet, it's quite likely they're all going to do the same thing. At some point, one by one, they're all pumping. Now, what does QNT have in common with everything I've just shown you? What did QNT do here? It blasted through those lows. Unknown territory. The best time to buy. But no one wants to buy here. They want to buy up here, because that's where the greed is. They want to chase the momentum. But that's what the people generating these prices want you to do. And as an example, QNT, if you bought at $40, and let's say worst case scenario, it hit 110, you didn't sell, and it crashed down lower. Look at the size of these candles, and this is something I think many people overlook, and this is why I buy coins and I wait years. As you guys saw with XRP, it's deleted a lot of my 2020 COVID buys. I don't know why. I think I've just bought and sold so much now, it's removed the history. But as an example, here sold 50k, here sold another 50k. That was February, and I didn't buy again until May. Waited a few months, but those few months truly paid off. And in that space of time, there's people that are trying to time every single mini dip, like all of these candles. But if you zoom out to those higher time frames, it justifies waiting, and it gives you a reason to do so. Because most people here, by the time I'd sold, they're going, you're crazy. You know, if you remember from the last videos, you can check the comments when I sold here. People are commenting, congratulations, you sold the generational lows. And for some reason, these generational lows they talk of just keep bloody going lower. So who really here knows what they're doing? It's insane. But you have to be patient. And obviously, at this point in time where I've bought now, if you kind of just zoom out and look at those buys, and look at how quick things can go back up when they're at these sort of prices, whilst most people buying up here are very, very unlikely. Again, just for anyone that's new, this was a giveaway. I know I have to clarify this every video, but we gave away 1,000 XRP in April 2021. So I thought if I was going to give it away, I'm going to give it away at a very fortunate price. So in fact, that was probably a sell, because I got rid of 1,000 of my XRP to give it to someone else at a very favorable price, which was worth quite a lot of money then, $1,600. So congratulations to the winner of that, by the way, again. I really hope you sold that. But besides that, what we've got there, $4, that was a joke. Besides that, 50k, and then around 200, 300k invested here, with around 100k or so taken out so far. So I'm in a very good position, and at this point in time, I'm patient. I keep getting the same question, shall I buy XRP now? And I think you know the answer to that question. You should not be buying XRP now. You should not be buying QNT now. You should not be buying Dogecoin now. Are we still in a bear market on Doge, or is this a bull market? You tell me. Now, the technical principles I use was a dead giveaway on why Doge would pump towards 14-15 cents. And the same rationale and logic applied to QNT, which is how I gave that trade and set up to my members. And the same goes for XRP on why I bought. Everyone's telling you here, Elon Musk, Doge, Twitter, it's all going to pop off. And they think that's the reason this coin pumped. But no, it didn't. It's got nothing to do with fundamentals. It's purely manipulation. And that is just the justification for why price needed to go back here. So you need to ask yourself now, what is below the floor of Doge? Huge empty space all the way back down to the very bottom. The same way I said over here, when we were lingering at these levels, there is a huge amount of empty space all the way down to here still. And we can see that empty space is slowly coming in to get filled. So the likelihood is, what's happening here? Same psychological principles. Everyone's too scared to buy here. It starts to pump. Everyone's jumping on the wave. Now, the large players who are manipulating you, and the thing is with Doge, it's such a retail coin in terms of it's what the greedy gamblers want to trade because they think Elon's going to guide them to riches. So these people don't buy here because who in their right mind would buy here? We want to buy here, catch that momentum. No, you're going to get slaughtered, you donut. And what likely happens here now, like I said this to the members yesterday, we're probably going to push up a bit more and take out this high, and we're probably going to start rolling over soon. And please don't be surprised if this goes back towards where it was and even lower eventually. If you look at what this is doing now, I mean, it's kind of simple, isn't it? It's swinging up and down, as I covered on the other coins, and the likelihood is they're going to continue back down again. It doesn't look like this is over. In fact, I think it's all going to get a lot worse. But how do you destroy people that you need to destroy to make your greedy fat pockets bigger? You need to make those people believe the bull run is back. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Doge to the moon. Do you know how many tweets I've seen saying Doge to $1? And it genuinely just makes me question reality. The amount of times I wake up and just think, maybe if I jump off my balcony in a Call of Duty swan dive manner, life might just be easier if I just get out of this matrix. But I stop myself because then I remind myself we have brain cells and we're going to use them. And I'm here to help you guys utilize those brain cells in a very sensible manner. Now, what we see here is the narrative returning of a bull run that is back. What I personally see is price going back up to a logical level of resistance. So to bring price back down and trigger a series of new, very large sell limits, you need people to be buying. Drive this up and everyone starts buying, you now have enough liquidity to push price back down. And I think that's worth mentioning, and that goes for many other coins as well. Everyone, you know, CSPR, QNT, it's the same principles. And again, you don't want to be buying this here. So one thing I get a lot, and you guys will know this from the comments on my videos, when, as an example here, you know, you take profit and it keeps going higher, and they go, well, it's gone higher, you've missed out on money. No, that's why you get in at the very bottom and scale out the whole way up, because that's what makes people believe it will never go down again. Again, a good example here, took 50k out at $1.25. It went up. I didn't sell anymore because I'd taken out enough. I was happy. But what happened here is it pushes and pushes and pushes until you think it's never going to go down again. You need to ask yourself, if something is pumping out of nowhere in a bear market during an economic crisis, when everything around us is going to shit, is it really time for Doge to go to $1? Or is it time for you to get wrecked again so the people controlling this market can make a lot more money? It's really worth considering that, especially if you're in a loss. You know, as an example, I tweeted this the other day. Doge. Most people holding Doge didn't buy here, right? And I know a lot of people got sucked into Doge. This is not the time for you to be buying. This is the time for you to get the hell out. Especially if you bought near these prices. This is your blessing from the market. A secondary lifeline to get the fuck out. cut your losses short. This is a pretty good opportunity. If you were down, let's say 80%, and you're now down only 30%, whatever it may be, it's a pretty good sign to maybe take a bit of money out. And if you really want to, reinvest it if it does go back lower. And look at it from that perspective. You know, if it does go down to here and it crashes, let's just say the low's there and it dies down. At least if you buy here and it goes against you, there's a pretty good chance at some point in the future with one of these pumps that we can see. Look at the size of these pumps. What we've seen before. You know, this one's a bit smaller, no problem. A tiny bit smaller from low to high. So let's say it goes against you and it crashes down. No problem, because a single pump can bring you back to break even and you can just get out if all goes wrong. At least that way, you're not going to be holding up here. My concern is that a lot of people have obviously bought all the way in this territory, and instead of buying here to try and recoup, a good way to explain, in fact, here's what I'm going to show you. The QNT debate that people kept saying to me. So when I told you to buy, or when I told members to buy, should I say, I didn't tell you guys to buy, but when I told members to buy at $40, and I said get out here around $130, $120, let's say 130 at the higher spectrum of this, that's a 200% gain. Now, if you are chasing the market, or let's say you went for the full whack, and I know some members actually held on, so fair play for doing that, and they've actually taken those profits and they've invested them into some other coins that I gave. Right, so from here to there, if I go to the monthly time frame, 1, 2, 3, 4. It took 4 months to make 468%. Fantastic. Now, if you miss that move, you have to accept you do not buy the moment that coin pumps. I don't care what coin it is, even if it's this pump, you do not buy. You do not buy. If you've missed a move, you have to learn to accept you've missed it. Your fear led you to not pull the trigger, so you now need to work on that and wait for the next investment. Now, let's say you chase this pump here at $193. That same movement would not even get you 100% return. The same distance movement. Now, let's say you were trying to achieve that same percentage. Interesting. 460%. $1,100 essentially from $193. So for anyone that followed my call, and let's say you did hold on, you needed that to make 460%. But if you buy here, you need that much. And even if you want to make 100%, it needs to go back to all-time highs. Now, in the fear of the moment, or the greed of the moment, shall I say, it is possible. Of course it is. Everything's possible. But is it really worth it? Because if it goes against you, which I do believe it's going to go back down to, let's say even to $120 first, that's a 40% loss basically. And then we start going down further. If we go back to, whoa, excuse me. If we go back to here, $95, which is easy, absolutely easy and very likely going to happen, you have lost 50%. Instead of sucking into greed and letting your mind get the best of you and thinking you're going to get rich overnight, just sit back and wait. Because that 50% you've lost could have been saved to buy here if you really want to. And that's probably the best way to explain things. And personally, I think it's going to go even lower. I think they all will at some point. You know, it has to get worse. And like I said, going back to the XRP situation as well, all of these people holding thinking they're going to get rich. Like I said, to mature, you need the immature to be eradicated. The only way that's possibly going to happen is, number one, regulations. We still don't know what they're going to do. And when you guys ask me future projections or what do you think of this, that it's not even worth worrying about right now until we have regulations, or when we see what's actually going to be allowed to thrive, what the market makers or what the largest sectors are going to be adopting, what is actually going to be moving. Right now you can buy anything and you can make a lot of money if you buy at the right prices. And I think utility is going to drive the market eventually. But to happen, you probably need to go down to some pretty significant levels, because all the people that are holding expecting to get rich, listening to riddlers, using gematria, you know, timing this with Jesus' arrival and QAnon and all that stuff, it's probably not going to work out too well. And those people will eventually give up. And that is probably the very moment the market resets. I think we need, you know, when they say level the playing field, that's what I think is needed. And the market probably has to crash to levels that you're not willing to believe yet. But I'm hoping you're willing to believe that now that we're at the prices I told you we would be at. Because if this gets worse, all of the people thinking they're going to be millionaires overnight with a $10, $100 push, they're going to sell and give up. And it's at that very moment the market will probably start reversing. But what I will say, for everyone asking me about longer term projections, first of all, I'm going to have to go to a 3-month or 6-month chart for this. $10 is there. Where's $100? Right, first of all, there's not even candles left at this point. You know, what was once incredibly large candles showing tens of thousands of % of gain, now is the equivalent of several micro penises combined together. And then that's where $100 is. So sometimes you have to actually look at it on the charts to just think, is this going to really happen right now in a singular upwards movement in the space of a few weeks or months? No. Is the settlement going to lead to something positive? Have a look at every historical positive XRP event, whether that was escrow finally being announced or going live, or whether that was XRapid. It never ended well. In the best case scenario, it's a short-term pump. So please do not ride on faith of a settlement, because you're missing out on the bigger picture here. I personally think once we crash, if we're ever going to see these prices, big question ever. And I think I'm being quite real here, because I hold quite a lot of XRP and I hold even more in personal cold storage. But I'm very honest with myself. And I understand that, number one, we don't know what the future holds. It's all promising crypto is here to stay. But at the same time, we could be wrong. Anything could happen. It could get banned. You never truly know. And I'm not here to spread FUD or scare you, but I'm just here to be honest and say, right, I've put my money on the line for this, but I also understand for what could be happening. When utility drives the market, it will likely mirror the stock market or the S&P or the FTSE, and maybe over many, many years, it will get there. But you have to remember, eventually, once this market's regulated, let's go back to normal price. You know, is this not enough, for fuck's sake? Look at how big these candles are. There's so much money on the cards here. It really hurts me. It really hurts me, to be honest. But you have to just think, right, it could take a very long time. And it's not to say they won't happen, but it's probably going to take a lot longer than you expect. So you don't want to miss out on this. These are once in an opportunity or once in a lifetime opportunities. We may eventually, guys, this is not going to be like this forever. We have to accept that. No market stays like this forever unless it becomes penny stocks, and then we've lost faith in it anyway. Eventually the market will have to mature, and it will have to be driven on logic and rationale. It's at this point in time where it's driven predominantly on market emotions, and we know the majority of people are moon boys, bullish, constantly seeking. It blows my mind that people have not yet woken up. We have had endless upside predictions, 100k, $100. When XRP, when someone says, how many people on YouTube have you watched that have claimed to have predicted a settlement date? Why do those people not show you their holdings like I do? Why do those people not show you their profits? Because they're not in fucking profit. And there's a reason for that. Because their money and income does not come from trading. It comes from fooling you to basically fund them. That's why they have all the paid links and the shills. Yes, I have a service. Yes, I charge for a service. Why? Because I guess because I'm good at what I do. If you're good at what you do, you never do it for free. And I have no shame in charging for a service, because I've changed thousands of lives. But my point here is, I don't use like exchange links. I've never promoted another project. I just give you the coins that we all know. I buy them and I show you. I think it's quite simple in that respect as well. But a lot of these people claiming this stuff, why do they not show real money? That should be such a red flag, guys. And it's like, we have to detach from this goldfish mindset of never learning our lesson. Every single pump we see, you hear the same words. This is it. This is it. We'll never see these prices again. And Lord and behold, we see these prices every time. You have to approach this market sensibly. And if you follow this approach, not that I'm saying follow me, but take it on board. Because if you do go down this approach, I can assure you, if you ask any of my members how relaxed and chilled they are right now, you'll probably be a bit shocked, because it's a very uncertain time for the market. But I'm kind of sitting here with my feet up, just waiting for the next movement. And I think this has been a necessary video. I haven't obviously given away exactly what I'm doing, and I can't do so, but I'm really hoping this video will make somewhat of a difference just to help shift your mindset and understanding of everything that's going on right now. And just remember, the market is not your friend. It's not here to help you. And we have to leverage the fact that we are being hunted to follow and understand what the hunters are doing next. It's a very dangerous playground for the wealthy and elite, and we are just mere tadpoles in this game. We need to understand things are probably going to get a lot worse. I do believe prices are going to crash quite significantly. But what I will say is, look at everyone calling 10k BTC. If we pump up from here, and I'm not going to say where I think it's going to go to, do you think if I'm just going to put a little wick above, let's say $28,000. If we pump up above, no one would have bought here because they're currently waiting for 10k. So when it goes up here, as we're now seeing with DOGE and QNT, people are going to start buying here. So if it does then go back down towards the targets they originally expected, my same theory will apply. They will either have no money left, or they will then be too scared to buy. And the people that were calling for 10k here will then be waiting for, let's just say, 1k or 2k or 5k, but then when it comes, they'll either be too broke to buy or too scared to buy. So it's just food for thought, worth leaving you with that thought to finish off this video. But as I said, moving forward, there'll be lewds, interesting. I guess you could say lewds. There will be lewds of new educational content coming forward. Again, not just from this respect, but psychological, educational. And please, in the comments, if you are watching this video and you have made it this far, please leave a comment letting me know what kind of videos you want, what kind of content. I'm not a big fan of covering loads of altcoins. The market moves exactly the same. They all do the same thing. There's no difference. My thoughts, as an example, if you ask me what are my thoughts on quant or what are my thoughts on other stuff, personally, I don't really know, and this shocks a lot of people, I don't really care about many of these projects yet. And I'm not looking into anything really. I'm happy with XRP. I buy a few altcoins because I have a good feeling they're going to go up from a technical perspective. But a lot of the things that we're looking for and trying to use as a basis for our investments, they actually do not matter. And that's why people buying shitcoins are getting rich, because there is no logic and rationale. So I don't really like doing videos on, the fundamentals of this, that, because there's no fundamentals driving this market. It's purely technical, irrationality and psychology. But besides like specific altcoin breakdowns, please let me know whether you're stuck on something or there's something you need to improve on. Let me know in the comments. I'm happy to deliver. That goes for everyone. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I'm going to get this wrapped up and uploaded as soon as possible. I'll see you guys in the next breakdown.